Hey there, in this lesson we're going to learn about arrays. An array is a way to store a collection of elements, okay? So remember in the previous lesson we were defining variables and we would declare a particular variable by giving it a name and a data type. And when we would assign it, we'd assign a single value to the variable. Well, we can have an array variable that has been assigned multiple values, okay? And I'll explain to you exactly how that works. So let's right click here and go to new class, and I'm going to create a class. Since we're going to be learning about arrays in this lesson, I'm going to call it learning arrays. And you can really name your classes anything you want. And then down here, just select the first option. That just allows us to execute this class. So the way to declare a variable, of course, is just you give the data type and you give the variable name, right? Let's say this is the variable name. And if I want to give it some data, I just say values is equal to, 100. But I cannot do something like this. Let's say I want to give 100, 200, 300 to this variable. This is, of course, illegal syntax. I can only give one value to this, okay? And the reason for that is because this is a container for single elements. Okay, this variable is pointing to a single data point, which is 100. Now, if I want to store multiple things in this variable, the way I would do that is using some array notation. And first things first, we need to have these square brackets. Okay, so now I'm saying that values is a variable of type integer array. So on the other side of the equal sign, we actually have to use some new syntax here. Okay, this new keyword, it'll make a lot more sense later on when we learn about object orientation, but the idea is that on this line we are doing two things. We are declaring a variable of type integer array. So an array allows you to store multiple elements. How many elements? That's what is declared here. Okay, we are initializing an array. We're initializing an array with 100 slots. So this array will have the ability to store 100 elements. It's very important to keep in mind that this is a fixed size. Once this line is executed, this variable will be capable of referencing multiple elements, 100 of them, okay, 100 slots. So now I can give this variable some data. Let's say I want to give it the number 1000, okay? We have to specify the slot position in which this number is going to go. And that slot position can be referenced using an index number. So let's say I want to put it in the slot number 2. How many indexes do we have in this array? Well, we should have 100 positions, right? So we should be able to reference 100 numbers in here. The key to remember is that the first slot of an array starts with the 0th index position. All right, the 0th index position, and the last slot of the array is going to be the size of it minus 1, 99. This is the last index position. Okay, so I'm assigning the first index position of the array the value 1000, and in the 99th index position, I am assigning this number, okay? So if you count from 0 to 99, what are you going to get? Well, you're going to get 100. 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way up to the number 99. That's 100 slots. So basically, think of this as an address, the slot address in which you're storing the data. So if you look at this picture here, notice that it starts from the 0th index position and goes all the way up to the 99th index position. If you count each one of those slots, it's going to be 100 addresses, 100 slots. And the way to print the data, it's going to be very similar to what we've already seen. We could just print values at a given index position. And let's say I want to print something in the first index position, 1. Well, this is actually officially going to be the second slot in the array. Because remember, the first slot starts at the 0th index position. 1 is the second slot, okay? So let's hit run here and notice that the value in the second slot of the array is only 0, okay? And if I, for example, let's pick a random slot for 54, all right? 54 is of course less than 99, so it's some slot in the middle. We haven't given it any data, so let's hit play and notice that it's 0. So this should show you that all slots that have not been assigned any data yet are by default initialized with 0, okay, with the number 0. So all of the slots in this values array, all of the slots that do not have any values assigned are going to be containing the data 0, okay? So let's print, for example, the first index position, the 0th slot. Here, I expect to see 1000 printed. So let's hit play and notice that 1000 is indeed being printed here. And if I want to print 99, the 99th slot is going to be the last slot of this array, and that should contain this data. So let's hit play here and notice that that's what is being printed. Now, if I do 100, this index position, this address, this particular slot number doesn't even exist in the array, all right? Very important to keep in mind. It starts from the 0th index position all the way up to the last slot, which is going to be less than what we have allocated. 100 minus 1 is going to be 99. Because remember, 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 99, if you count all those slots, it is in fact 100 slots. But you can't reference the 100th index position because it does not exist. Only up to 99 are the slots that exist. So let's hit play and notice it's giving us an error. It's saying Java Lang array index out of bounds exception. Okay, we have gone out of bounds. We've gone past the slot index position of the array, the last slot. The last slot was 99. We're referencing 100, and that's why it's saying index out of bounds 100 does not exist. This slot position does not exist in this array. Another thing to keep in mind is that you cannot assign slots with other data types. So for example, the slot position 1, right, this is going to be the second slot of this array. It has the address 1, right? That's the index position of that slot. I can't give it some other data type. I can't store this string in this slot. And the reason for that is hover your mouse here and it's saying type mismatch, cannot convert from string to int. Because guess what? This is an integer array. It can only store integers. All right. So that is why we can't store any other data type. That's another key thing to keep in mind, that arrays contain the same kind of data. All right. And the kind of data that they should contain is, of course, based on the data type. Here we're saying that this array is of integer data type. So it's only going to take integers. We can't put any other data type in there, okay? I can't put, for example, 33.44. This is, from the previous lesson, you saw that this is a double. And we can't store doubles here either, because guess what? This is an integer data type. If I change this to double, now this is not showing an error. And of course, I have to change this side as well. Doubles basically accept this as well as, basic whole numbers like this. So let's hit play and notice that, I'm still referring to an index out of bounds. So let me go one back. Let's go to 99 here. That's the last slot of the array, and notice that it is printing it out, all right? And the reason why it has the .0 here is because the double basically is for decimals. So these whole numbers are treated as decimals, and it just pads on a .0 at the end, all right? Same thing for the 0th index position. So let's hit play and notice that it's showing 1000.0. Now I know this is some hairy syntax right here. This is going to make a lot more sense later on, but look at the variable. It's called values, and its type, its data type is double array. That's the type. That's what this variable's type is. It's a double array. All right, it's capable of storing doubles in 100 slots. Okay, now let me show you another way to declare arrays. Let's create an array of type string. I can have a string array and we'll call it words, and I could do new string like that. But instead of giving the number of slots, I could basically give the data directly and say my name is. All right, this words array contains 3 words. My name is. All right, 3 strings. So if I want to print one of these, I would do sysout words, and then I give the index position of what I want printed. So here's a quiz for you. I want you to print me the last element in this words array, which is. I want you to print that by referencing the correct index position. Take a moment to try this out on your own, and you can resume to watch my solution. All right, hopefully you were able to figure this out. The length of this array, the size of this array is 3, okay? But when it comes to index positions, when it comes to the address of each one of these slots, we are basically 1 less than what it looks. So this first slot, its index position is 0, all right? Like I explained to you earlier. The second slot right here, this index position is 1. This last slot right here, its index position is 2. So if I wanted to print is, I would have to put 2 like that. And now it's going to print is. So let's hit play and notice that it's printing is. If I wanted to print the first element, then I would do 0, and that's going to print my. All right. So this is an array of size 3. Okay. So if I wanted to, instead of giving these values, I could basically put these elements in this array later by first initializing a size of 3. All right. This initializes the array with 3 empty slots. And now in each one of these slots, I can put in the data by saying, at the 0th index position, I want to put the word my. At the second index position, which is going to be referenced by the number 1, right? That's going to say name. And the third index position, which is going to be referenced by the index number 2, right? Think of these as addresses. The 0th slot, the index 1 slot, and the index 2 slot. These are addresses. And the last word here is going to be is, okay? So this is essentially doing the same exact thing as what I showed you on this first line. So let's hit play and notice that it's still working as expected. So take a few moments to internalize this syntax. It's a little new from what we've seen so far. So this is the key here when we want to create a new array, right? When we define, this is the declaration, right? This is the declaration of an array called values. That's the variable name, and we're saying that this is going to contain data type of double arrays, right? It's a double array. And here we give the number of slots that this array is going to contain. The number of slots means 100 slots. The first index position starts from 0 all the way up to the 100 minus 1, which is the 99th index position. Same goes for here. I'm declaring a variable called words. It's of type string array, all right? So it's going to store multiple strings. And how many strings is it going to store? It's going to store 3 strings, all right? That's the number of slots. And these are fixed size data structures. Once I declare this array, I can't change the number of slots, all right? I'd have to initialize a new array to do that, okay? So I can't say that, all right, I've filled up this array. Let me increase the size of this and put in the 4th element here. It's not allowed, all right? Once I initialize this array, I can't expand it or reduce its size. I would have to create a brand new array. And the way we could do that is just do words equals new string. And now words variable. What is its type? Its type is string array. But now this variable is going to point to 10 slots. At this point, do you think words has any of the data that it had before? Well, take a guess. We're creating a brand new set of slots here. It's of course not going to have the data. Let me prove it to you. If I do sysout here and do words at the 0th index position, right? This is actually going to contain nothing. All right, it might say null here. So let's hit play, and notice the 1000 dot that's being printed from this statement right here, the my that's being printed from this statement right here, and then after this line, we are assigning 10 brand new slots to this variable. Okay, the old data is gone at this point. The old data is gone from this variable, and now the 0th index position no longer has my, it just has this keyword called null, and null basically means empty, right? Nothing, it means null. So any one of these slots, 0, there's nothing in the second, in the slot position 2, which is the third slot of the array, that's of course also going to just contain null. There's nothing there. So take some time to study this, and only then resume to the next lesson. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.